The crows of Devil's Hollow. Down in the red clay country of Alabama, where the kudzu strangles fence posts and time itself seems to move slow and thick like molasses, there lies a place no one talks about unless they've had too much to drink or too little to live for. They call it Devil's Hollow. It isn't on any modern map. If you ask about it in town, folks either go quiet or smile in that sideways, too polite way that tells you you're asking the wrong questions. But the old folks remember, and some of them even saw what crawled out of there once. I didn't believe any of it until I inherited my grandmother's house on the edge of the hollow. The house was a crumbling two-story thing, all chipped white paint and leaning columns, with a sagging porch that creaked even when nobody walked on it. Spanish moss hung like funeral veils from the cypress trees, and crows, dozens of them, perched silently on the roof like sentinels. I came from Birmingham to clean it out and maybe sell it. I thought I'd be there 3 days, 4 at the most. I brought nothing but a duffel bag, a flashlight, and a bottle of bourbon. But by the end of the first night, I knew I wasn't getting out of Devil's Hollow that easy. The locals warned me. At the gas station just outside town, an old man with cataract eyes leaned against the ice cooler and said, "That place got rot in the bones. Don't matter how much paint you slap on it. Something in that dirt remembers blood." I laughed it off, but when I pulled up the gravel driveway and saw the crows watching me with cold, wet eyes, the words echoed in my ears. The house smelled like mildew, dust, and something sour, like meat left too long in a fridge. My grandmother had died alone in that house. No one found her for days. Her body sat in a chair by the fireplace, dry as a leaf, and twisted like she'd been reaching for something behind her. I found the chair still there, a faded red velvet rocker. The floorboards around it were blackened and warped, like fire had tried to take it and failed. That night the crows started screaming. I didn't sleep. The crows wouldn't let me. They clawed at the windows, pecked at the siding, and filled the dark with a chorus of shrieks that didn't sound natural. At 2:17 a.m. exactly, everything went silent. Not a chirp, not a rustle. Even the cicadas stopped their buzz. I stood at the upstairs window, staring into the hollow, and saw something moving in the fog. At first, I thought it was just mist curling, but then it stood up. It was a figure, tall, gaunt, wrapped in what looked like tattered preacher's robes. Its face was hidden under a wide-brimmed hat, and its hands hung too long, ending in fingers that reached past its knees. When it turned toward the house, I stumbled back from the window. That's when the whispering began. Not voices exactly, more like breath-forming words in the back of my skull. I couldn't understand it, but it made my teeth ache and the walls pulse like they were breathing. I fled to the porch with my flashlight and the bourbon, desperate for air. The crows were gone. Not a feather in sight. But in the mud at the foot of the porch steps, I saw footprints. Bare feet, human-shaped, but too long, too narrow. They trailed back into the woods where the hollow swallowed everything in vines and shadow. The next day I found the journal. It was hidden behind a loose board in the hallway, wrapped in old fabric that smelled of cedar and mold. The handwriting was tight, sharp, and furious. It was my grandmother's. She wrote about a man who came to the Hollow in 1910, a preacher named Reverend Silas Greaves. Said he was building a church to drive out the old wickedness from the valley. But she claimed he didn't build the church on the land, he built it into the land. He dug a foundation not just through soil, but through something else. Something that bled black sap and whispered in his dreams. The church burned down a year later. No one could find Greaves's body. Only his hat remained charred but untouched by flame. She said the crows returned first. Then the dreams. Then the Hollow Man. By the 1970s, she was the only one left near the edge of the woods. She'd sealed every door with iron nails and buried jars of salt in the yard. But she wrote, "It's getting closer. It wants the house. It wants blood in the soil again." That night, the footsteps came up the stairs. I hadn't slept. I sat on the floor with the journal and a lantern, trying to stay awake. At 2:17 a.m., the air shifted, thickened like syrup, and the boards on the porch groaned under weight that wasn't mine. Then came the slow, deliberate steps inside. I didn't run. I don't know why. Maybe it had already worked its way into my mind, like mold blooming in the cracks. The door to the bedroom opened. There was nothing there, but the shadows on the walls moved like something was breathing just out of sight. The crows returned then, filling the trees, covering the roof, and in their cries I could almost hear words. "Preacher, preacher, preacher." I grabbed the journal and fled to the attic, the only room without windows. There, under layers of dust and cobwebs, I found the trapdoor. It led to a space between the rafters and the roof, a crawl space of old bones and candle stubs. In the middle sat a small wooden box wrapped in chain. I knew before opening it what I'd find. Inside was a scorched, wide-brimmed hat. Beneath it, a black book bound in something that looked like skin. It pulsed when I touched it. The whispering surged through me like a fever. My nose bled. My hands shook. I saw visions of the hollow writhing like a pit of snakes, roots twitching like fingers, and a church made of bone and flame rising from the earth. And I understood. Silas Greaves had never left. I tried to burn it. I poured bourbon over the book and set it alight. It screamed. Not the book, the house. The walls twisted, the ceiling bowed. The fire turned green and shrank inward, as if the book were drinking it. The floor split open beneath me. I fell, through wood, through dirt, through memory, into the hollow. I landed in the ruins of a church I'd never seen, but had dreamed of 100 times. The pews were made of rotted timber and sinew. The altar bled, and there at the pulpit stood Silas Greaves, or what was left of him. His face was a blank smear of flesh, his arms bent the wrong way. The hat still sat on his head, casting a shadow with a life of its own. He spoke without a mouth. Blood for the hollow, sin for salvation. Then he lifted a hand and the crows descended. They tore at me, not my flesh, but my soul. I felt memories leave me like breath in winter. I screamed until my voice broke. And then I woke up, back in the chair, in the living room, just like my grandmother. The journal was gone. The footprints were gone. Even the hat was gone. Only the crows remained perched on every branch, every beam, every wire, watching. I tried to leave. My car wouldn't start. The road twisted in on itself, leading me back to the house again and again. The sun never quite rose. The hollow had claimed me. And now I sit in this house, writing this story in what used to be my grandmother's hand. Because the hollow doesn't kill you. It keeps you. It feeds on memory, on fear, on belief. And when someone new comes, some poor soul looking to clean out a dead woman's home, they'll read these words and think it's just a story. They'll ignore the crows. They always ignore the crows.